Moving to the cloud can feel like trying to solve this giant, complicated puzzle. It's overwhelming, right? So where do you even begin? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break it all down with a simple, step-by-step playbook for moving to Microsoft Azure. And we're going to do it by telling a story. Let's get into it.
First, let me ask you something. Does managing your own physical servers ever feel like you're just spending all your time trying to keep the lights on instead of, actually innovating? Are you wrestling with hardware that's getting old, costs that keep creeping up, and just struggling to scale when things get busy? If any of that rings a bell, then you are definitely in the right place.
So to make this all a bit more real, we're going to follow the journey of a company we'll call Innovate Inc. Their story, from a classic old-school data center to a fully optimized setup in Azure, is basically the perfect roadmap for understanding all the challenges, the tough decisions, and of course the big rewards of a migration done right.
Okay, so let's meet our company. Innovate Inc. was doing great. They were a successful, growing business, but their technology, well, their tech was starting to feel like an anchor. It was literally holding them back from what they could become. The push to modernize wasn't just some IT project. It was a straight-up business emergency.
And what's really interesting here is how all these problems were tangled together. Their hardware was getting ancient, which meant they were looking at huge, expensive refresh projects. That capital expense was just a massive drain. But even worse, it was taking them forever to roll out new features to their customers, and they couldn't handle big spikes in traffic, which meant they were literally losing business. Something had to change.
So, Innovate Inc. knew they couldn't just dive in head first. You know that old saying, measure twice, cut once? Well, that is exactly what this is about. This whole initial planning phase is, without a doubt, the most important part of the entire journey. If you get this part wrong, everything you build on top of it is just going to be on shaky ground.
In the Azure world, this foundation has a name. It's called a landing zone, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's a standardized environment that gets all your core networking, your security, your access controls, all set up before you move a single thing. It's how you make sure everything you build later on is secure, compliant, and ready to grow.
Their process really boiled down to two big steps. First up was discovery. They used all these automated tools to basically create a map of everything, and I mean everything in their data center. Every server, every connection. Because you can't move what you don't understand, right? Then once they had that map, they built their landing zone in Azure, making sure all the security and the rules were tailored just for them.
All right, the foundation is poured, everything's ready. Now it's time for the first phase of the actual move. And the goal here wasn't perfection. Nope, it was all about momentum. They needed a quick win to start clearing out that expensive data center and cut their risk as fast as humanly possible. And this is where that lift and shift strategy comes into play.
Rehosting, or what everyone calls lift and shift, is, well, it's exactly what it sounds like. You're basically picking up your existing servers and apps and plopping them down on virtual machines in Azure with almost no changes. I absolutely love this analogy. It's like moving all your furniture into your new house before you even think about painting or renovating. The goal is just to get it there, safe and sound.
And this brings us to a super important point, a trade-off. The huge pro is speed. This was by far the fastest way to get out of their old expensive data center. The con, though, is that you're not really getting all those cool cloud benefits yet. Innovate Inc. made a very conscious choice here. They picked speed first because they knew they could worry about optimization later. And that brings us to phase 2, optimization. The furniture is safely in the new house, so now it's time to renovate. This is where Innovate Inc. really started to unlock the true power of the cloud by modernizing their apps to be way more efficient, way more resilient, and just faster. The first step they took was replatforming. Now, this just means making some small, targeted changes to their apps so they could use what are called Platform as a Service, or PaaS offerings. Think about it this way. PaaS is like renting a fully equipped professional kitchen instead of building your own. You just show up with your recipes, your code, and Microsoft handles all the ovens, the plumbing, all the maintenance.
And then, for their absolute most important money-making applications, they went even deeper. They did what's called refactoring. Now, this isn't a small tweak. This is a significant redesign of the application itself to really take advantage of all the cool cloud-native stuff. This is how you build apps that can scale to millions of users on a dime and basically heal themselves if something breaks.
And you guessed it, this means another key trade-off. The con is obvious. This takes more time, more effort, more brain power. But the pro? Oh man, the payoff is just massive. We're talking huge long-term cost savings, incredible performance, and the ability to innovate at a speed they could have only dreamed of before.
So after all that, what can we actually learn from Innovate Inc.'s journey? Looking back, their whole experience really gives us a clear set of lessons that anyone thinking about a move to the cloud can use. Let's kind of boil it all down to the most important takeaways. First off, this is not a one-and-done thing. It's a journey. Second, that solid Azure landing zone foundation, it's completely non-negotiable. Third, using lift and shift at the start is a really smart way to build momentum. Fourth, you've got to be strategic. Focus your energy on optimizing the apps that are actually going to make a difference to the business. And finally, and this might be the most important one, you have to treat this like a business transformation project that just happens to use technology.
And that last point is captured perfectly by this quote from our fictional CEO. The end goal was never just about getting rid of old servers. It was about changing the company's DNA, making them more agile, more innovative, and better for their customers. That's the real prize.
So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. What's the first domino you need to push? Maybe it's just taking inventory of your apps, or maybe it's just identifying one single pain point. What's that first small step you can take to start your own journey? Thanks for watching.